A week in which we witnessed yet some more bloodshed, from Alabama, where a young man was shot and killed, to Taifa, Burkina, where 2 men were killed reportedly over a woman, and in Ofonse, where a building collapsed on a grandmother. At Tamanu Town, a young man was shot and killed by police. In the western region, a pastor was stabbed by a taxi driver over a little scuffle. Thankfully, no deaths were recorded in Takrady, where more than 100 people were said to be injured in an explosion. Just yesterday, 2 people were killed and many others are in critical condition following a chieftaincy dispute in Bogatanga in the Upper West region. And just talking about yesterday, it's too much bloodshed. Most of these were avoidable. I take this opportunity, if I may, to implore all of us to, in our own small ways, be the one who prevented such tragedies from happening. Welcome to Editors Forum. We try to build a bridge between biases and factual information. I'd say we strive for objectivity. Today, we're looking at the outcome of the governing NPP's council meeting. The pregnant nursing student who was barred from taking an exam, the shutdown of the School of Surveying and Mapping, the new Chief Justice, and our latest Hotline documentary, Poison, on the menu. My guest for today, of course, Jifa Bampo, and I'm excited to have her here. She was honored yesterday. You're welcome, Jifa, and congratulations once again.
Thanks, Gifty.
In the jiffy, Malik Abbas, our editor at myjoyonline.com, and our regular panelists will be joining us as we start the show. My name is Gifty Ando Appian. Once again, congratulations to Jifa Bampo. We'll be right back, and then we kickstart the program. You're welcome to the show, and we're just about starting. Malik Abbas Dabu has joined us. Malik, you're welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Happy Mother's Day to you both.
Thank you. Is that all?
Thank you.
This is unfair.
I mean, no, it's not unfair.
Happy Mother's Day to your wife.
Thank you on her behalf.
No, Malik, is that all? Happy Mother's Day. That's it.
Oh. Should
That's it.
What else is
You're
there
taking
to be
minutes
said?
of the show. That's it.
Is there,
Just say yes or no.
Is there more to be said?
Okay. Anyway, well, I'd like to give you the opportunity, both of you, to wish some people Happy Mother's Day, maybe special people in your life. I mean, we've got to be heavy on that today, don't we, Mama Jeff?
All right, so I'll start with my mother-in-law, Mrs. Rebecca Bampo. I wish her a very happy Mother's Day, as well as my aunts, Philippine Kundu and Mrs. Agnes Essa.
Oh, is Mrs. Kundo from Angogao Keta or something?
Oh, no, Mrs. Kundo is my mother's sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
I know someone with that surname, that's why.
Intema.
Yes.
Okay, that's my auntie's husband's family.
Okay,
yes,
oh wow.
Very small world. So I wish them happy Mother's Day, and all the mothers, not just those who have had children, but those who are looking after people's children, and even, believe it or not, even nannies, because for those of us mothers who have to work, we leave our children in the hands of others, nannies, to look after them. So we also wish them a happy Mother's Day for their good work.
All right. I'm sure they've heard you, and they will be very excited to hear their name on on Mother's Day as we acknowledge them. Hello.
Okay, so happy Mother's Day again to you both. And of course, my mothers-in-law, Hajia Kubra and Hajia Kutum. And of course, my mom, she's not watching this. This morning, she made me laugh because she said my kid brother, who also works here, called her to say Happy Mother's Day. And she said, same to you. So now she narrated the thing to me and said my brother was laughing at her, and I said her father didn't pay school fees. That's why. Yeah, but happy Mother's Day to all the fabulous women who have touched our lives. Very many of them. They've done great. All
right. So, well, happy Mother's Day to all of you, those I know and those I don't know. My mother, Wilhelmina Andopia, and my grandmother, Comfort Hagan, who for most of my life has been my mother. That's why I always say that my understanding of motherhood is very changing.
Even I know about her.
We all know about the grandmother.
Really?
Yes, I know. You always talked about her.
Oh.
Yes. And how she was strict and everything.
Yes. She still is, but I'm the only one who can handle her. Because we
you have an understanding.
We our characters, best
Yeah, like
to
this.
each other.
Okay.
Yes. So happy Mother's Day to all of them. And my latest discovery, Uriel Deku Arthur. I really appreciate you. So we'll just kickstart the program right now. So whilst we are celebrating mothers, on Wednesday, a report of a final year student, Cecilia Awini, who was barred from taking an exam on the basis of her pregnancy, she was prevented by the principal of the Gusau Nursing School, Winifred Wodong, from taking her remaining papers when authorities found out she was 4 months pregnant. And mind you, she had taken 3 of the papers already. After the media attention to the story, there have been arrangements for her to write the paper. But I'm asking, how many of such cases have gone unreported? And how many people are suffering from such decisions because the media perhaps could not publicize their stories? I want to start with you, Jifa. How does it feel like to be pregnant and to be 4-month-old pregnant? Does it make you unable to do anything at all?
Yes and no. So it depends on the pregnancy or the person who is pregnant. And it's unfortunate that this situation persists. My view on it is that people should allow women to make their own decisions. People should stop this penchant for making decisions for women, especially when they are pregnant, as to whether they can work, whether they cannot work, whether they can write an exam, whether they cannot write the exam. Let the woman who is pregnant decide that this condition is such that I cannot do this. And this is why or let the woman be the one to decide that, look, I'm fine and I'm going full steam ahead. After all, if she fails the exam, she will have to write it again.
Right.
So if it is her decision to write the exam, we should allow her. But this is bigger than just this nursing student. I understand there were 3 others who were also asked to leave the school for being pregnant and didn't write their exams. We don't know what arrangements are being made for those students. It just so happened that this story came into the media, and because of the outrage that it generated, the school authorities and the Nurses and Midwives Council were pressured to reverse the decision taken. But the question is, what about the others whom we don't know about? And then even beyond what happened in Gusau Midwifery Training School, the question is, why do nurses training colleges continue to have these rules? You know, I'm trying not to use, you know, adjectives that would seem unpalatable, but I find it
rules that don't make sense.
Not even just rules that don't make sense. I think we've moved on. They are no more I think they are seen as pre-tertiary. So they are treated like they are secondary school students, but that's not what they are. So they have all these, you know, rules and regulations that really don't seem to, you know, apply to the whole course setup that they are required to do. Because once they do all they have to do, then they move into the field for their rotations and eventually they write their, you know, registration exams, get certification. So they are like,
they're grown ups.
Yes.
And she's married, this lady.
Even the marriage issue does not matter for me. Because at the end of the day, the choice of a woman to have her baby is her choice. So it's not even about her being married or not. But the decision she's taken, she says she's ready to write her exams. And it could be that, yes, she's only 4 months pregnant and there isn't much of an issue with her. And she had written 3 papers, so why stop her? If she were, let's say, you know, 8 months pregnant, then you could say, all right, the risk of going into labor whilst writing the exams are high, and so you are seeking to take a precaution. Even then, I know that you can write the exam on your sick bed. Arrangements can be made for you to write your exam. So the options are varied. And so I just think that sometimes school authorities take these kinds of decisions because it's the easiest decision to take. But what you then do is you destroy someone's future in the sense that not everybody, I understand, is able to return after having the baby. For those of us who've had children, it's a whole different ballgame. Having to look after them. Being pregnant and going through that process is one thing, which is what I guess as a society generally we fuss about. But having the child safely and looking after the child to that magic number of age 5, when you're sure that the child is strong and healthy, that's a whole different kettle of fish. And so asking the woman not to write the exam at that moment, go home and come back. She may not come back. And I understand that there are many who've not come back. But beyond this, the question is, why are tertiary, pre-tertiary, or these nursing training colleges or even teacher training colleges, if they are, doing or implementing this kind of rules when our universities are not?
Right.
I know that way back at the University of Ghana, this issue came up in the 60s. And the rule was changed that this should not prevent a university student from continuing their education. So it should be a choice. I remember I went to university deciding that I will try and make sure I do all the things I want to do, whether it's up to a postgraduate level, before having to get married. But
that was your choice.
But that was my choice. But I had classmates who were mothers. I had classmates who were pregnant. I admire them because it's not exactly an easy feat as well.
Wouldn't you say also, Jifa, that this, I mean, just so we don't rubbish them completely, that this is also some sort of measure to help, you know,
so that you don't encourage people to just be getting pregnant while they're in school. Because I know of a story where a lady she lived in Tema, she worked in Accra, and she was going to school at UPSA, and she was pregnant. She was able to go through the studies and everything, and then just when she was about to write, actually she wrote the paper, and I think the final paper, she died. She lost the child, her husband lost the child and lost her as well. So wouldn't you say that these are some of the things that acts as checks against, you know, for your own sake? I agree, but in terms of people are responsible for their actions. Okay. It's not like we're in a secondary school, that's different. Right. You know, in a secondary school, and even there, when they get pregnant, they are allowed to come write their BEC and go. Yeah. It's just that we don't want a situation where you are discriminated against because you are pregnant. Okay. Let's see what measures can be put in place to help rather than harm. And I think that is what our attention should focus on. And I think the Nurses and Midwifery Council needs to do a little more in terms of regulation, in terms of holding you know, authorities to account.
Let me bring Malik in, and then we'll come and talk about the solution, perhaps, what could, which is where I think you were going. Malik, how difficult was it to support your wife when she was 4 months into the pregnancy?
Well, like Jifa pointed out, it's on a case-by-case basis. There are people right from day one, they start having problems, and so you have to deal with that. That didn't quite happen with my wife anyway, but it's on a case-by-case basis. Before I forget, you related this incident of a lady who lost her life because she was working. Was there any correlation established by medical doctors that her working and schooling were the cause of death?
I don't have that information.
Absolutely. I doubt there will be any such correlation. So no one can curtail a person's right to education by referring to the worst case scenario. I think it's unfair. When I heard the story, and I heard it before the story actually went on air, because I was talking to Manasseh in the course of the gathering of the information, I was frustrated and angry that today we would have such absurd rules as these, that you have JHS students who are allowed by the Ghana Education Service to sit their exams even when they are pregnant. And persons who are training to become midwives and nurses are prevented from being pregnant and being in school. It is such an absurd and backward rule. But what worried me is the realization that the institutions themselves and the regulatory bodies such as the Nursing and Midwifery Council actually endorse these rules. Because if you followed the story, the head of PR at the Nursing and Midwifery Council actually sought to justify the action of the principal of the school. Remember also that in that story, this is not the first time this has happened. Somewhere last year, that was even a more harrowing case. That this lady was told that the only concession that could be made for her to sit the exams was if she gave birth. Wow. So she had to go and do
an induction.
An induction so that she could give birth early enough to be able to sit the exam. Now, this is where it got even more annoying. So she went through the process, undertook the risk, gave birth. When she got back to the school, she was told that registration for exams had elapsed.
This is madness.
And that she couldn't sit the exams. It had to take the intervention of the Midwifery Council and other important members of the society for her to be able to sit the exams. My question was, if she could sit the exams upon those interventions, it means that it was entirely possible for her to sit the exams.
And absolutely unnecessary for her to go through that experience.
Absolutely. So why did the why did the institutional heads put her through that stress? Why should any woman be made to choose whether she wants to have a baby or whether she wants to go to school? It's an unfair imposition to put on anyone. And yet, the school authorities imposed this on this person, and she had to go and take the risk, which was risk to herself and risk to the baby. But she had to do that because if she didn't do that, she needed to wait for the next academic year to go back and sit the entire semester again to be able to finish her course of study.
I see.
You know, and my point is, some of the most egregious violations in this country occur in institutions of learning.
Right.
And that should worry all of us. That
because they are supposed to be teaching us, you know, the
absolutely
right things to do.
And you and I went to GIJ. I had this absurd situation where at GIJ, I was made to recite a paper. In fact, on 2 occasions. On the first occasion, I recited the paper because the lecturer decided that he couldn't go back to the school authorities to go and correct my marks because he had done that for other students and had been warned. If he were to go back to them, they would stop him from teaching, so he would lose his job. So I had to go and recite a paper I didn't fail. Because he didn't submit my IA marks. And yet I submitted the IA to him. He considered that I submitted the IA to him. He marked it. Somehow he just didn't score me for the IA. And so they failed me for that. And I had to go and sit that paper. The second scenario happened, the same scenario, the same IA. The lecturer decided that he would not mark it. And even though I had obtained 67 marks in that paper, I had to write a receipt. And
when you write a receipt, you're looking at a C.
Now, this is where it is absurd. I finished writing the receipt. The assistant registrar tells me that University of Ghana has graduated me, and so he won't submit the marks for the receipt because I had already qualified already and had been graduated. So he won't submit the marks for the receipt. So the stress I was made to go to was completely unnecessary. In any case, how do you make a student who obtains 67 marks, which was A- at worst, 67, because we had done a class test which was marks over 25, I had 20 over 25. The main exam was scored over 60, I had 47 over 60. That's 67 marks. They scrapped everything because the IA, which was marked 15, the lecturer decided not to mark my script. And so he didn't give me any marks for the IA, and so I had to fail the paper because I didn't have marks for IA. 67 marks was deemed nonsense. And I had to go and write a receipt which I didn't even need in the first place. These things happen in our institutions of learning, and they are so widespread that it bothers me that we haven't done anything about them. That persons who are supposed to mold young people are the same people who are violating their rights, and they are doing that without recourse to the future of the people.
Right. Let's hear from Cecilia Winnie, the lady who was brought on writing that exams, and the response she got after the media's attention, you know, was brought to this particular story. When we return, we go into what solutions there possibly could be to this problem.
They invited me to the school that they want to take me through counseling. So I should go back and be in uniform and come. So I went back to the house, won my uniform and came back to this. So in the office, they sat down and they said, whatever has happened, they were going by the school rules and regulations in the previous year. But now that the rules and regulation is taking different dimensions, they are telling me to come back to the school and write with my colleagues tomorrow. So I shouldn't take it into consideration that the school may maltreat me or they will sabotage me in one way or the other. they are not going to do that. They will treat me like the other students. So if I have any problem concerning my studies or concerning my health, I'm free to come to any of the tutors and ask for help, and they are willing to help me. So I shouldn't put it in my mind that because this case has gone out of the media, they are going to maltreat me, or they are going to mark my papers down in case I write any exam in the school.
You have already missed 2 papers.
Yes.
Did they talk about those ones too?
Yes, please. They told me that they will see the various subject masters for them to set different questions for me to prepare and come and write. And for the tomorrow's paper, they are telling me that I should join my colleagues and write tomorrow's paper so that it will remain with 2 papers.
I've met principals on various fora and various occasions, and we have told them that there is no law, even in our constitution, that bans students from writing the licensing exam. In fact, if you read Article 12, subsection 1 and 2 of the 1992 Constitution, it is clearly written that we should not prevent anybody to write any exams because the person is pregnant. Pregnancy is not a criminal offense. So whenever we get wind of such things, we come in to intervene. So maybe for the way forward, what we can do is that immediately I'm going to meet with my management. But a proposal on my mind now is the lady or the student concerned will be asked to write supplementary paper. That one, we will instruct the principal to do that.
Okay. All right, so that is the registrar for the Nurses and Midwifery Council. Before him was Cecilia Winnie, the lady at the center of this controversy. Mama J, if you're already going into, that's how we call it anyway, so just so you don't know. It's going to come up every now and then. You are going into the solutions already, if there is anything like that at all.
Okay, before even talking about the solutions, yes, I was talking about the Nurses and Midwifery Council exercising stronger oversight in terms of accountability and ensuring that the students in these institutions are not having their rights violated, because they themselves admit and concede that there is no justification for such action. What I don't think they seem to be doing is to be keeping a close eye, because it's on 2 levels. So they are not keeping a close eye. Then the school authorities take these decisions. And you and I understand how our grievance and petition system can be very stressful,
painfully
and
slow.
Yes, and convoluted. So a lot of the students are unwilling to go through that process because they feel they'll be victimized. So there's that level where even though you can petition or you can appeal, they don't. Then
just let it go.
Then the other option is to go to court, and the legal system is also very slow. It's possible that by the time that whole legal process is over, you could have written the exam 2-3 times,
and the authority perhaps wouldn't even be there.
And
anyway.
the person who infringe on your rights would probably not be in the school. And then, of course, it's expensive. It's an issue of money. Why do you want to waste money on a process that will take 3 years, 4 years, if you are just to come back next year? So people let it go. However, there is a Shraj ruling, I understand, in reference to these kinds of situations. And so there's also the other level of knowledge. For lack of knowledge, our people perish. So if people or the students knew that there's this Shraj ruling, then they could invoke it. They could invoke it, and then if the authorities do not respond, then you could go further if you're able to contact someone who could help you. However, the media was the easiest way for Cecilia Wuni's husband. And it's interesting that it's her husband. It's not Cecilia herself who, in a sense, pushed for this, but her husband. And which is good, that the husband felt that an injustice was being done to his wife. And so he pushed and got this out. I agree, this is one story out of a million. And the media, yes, we cannot solve everyone's problem, but I think this was an opportunity to highlight what has been a persistent problem. I think what we need to do going forward is to keep an eye with and an ear with the Nurses and Midwifery Council to ensure that people's rights are not being violated, and that they should take notice of the Shraj ruling and make sure that the authorities in their various nursing and midwifery schools are adhering to it. Otherwise, someone will have to go to court to ensure enforcement.
And perhaps a lot of people will be prevented from writing their exams, and it won't, of course, come to the attention of the media. Malik?
Gifty, I think our educational institutions must recognize that they are not some parents whose duty it is to hold canes and lash people's kids and whip them in line. That's not what the role of an educationist is. The role of an educationist is to coach and to mentor. It does not appear to me that our educational authorities recognize this. Because when you look at teacher-student relationships, it's almost as if I am the boss, I'm the authority. When I talk, you must listen. There's no coaching and there's no mentoring. And I think that we must cultivate that. We must listen to our students. We don't. A lot of the time, we don't. We don't listen to the students. I disagree with Jifa when she says the Nurses and Midwifery Council has to monitor. Because the council itself believes that these processes are right. Because remember that in this story, the PRO justified not once, twice. When Manasseh went there, the PRO justified the action. The next morning when we were doing the story, and I was on the Super Morning Show on radio, he still came on there and justified it. When the registrar of the school, whose voice you just played, I think when he sensed that there was outrage and public anger, he then called into the show and contradicted the position of the PRO. When that was pointed out to him, he said, I am the registrar. Take what I am saying. Ignore what the PRO is saying.
But Malik, what did you say that
the curious thing is that even before Manasseh got to talk to the PRO, Manasseh had spoken to this registrar. And it was obvious that this registrar himself actually endorsed the action. The next morning when the heat was on, he called on the show and to engage in a face saving, he said, no, we will get the girl to write the paper, write a supplementary paper. What sense is there to stop somebody who is writing 6%? The person has written 3. She's only 4 months pregnant, for God's sake. 4 months. The person has written 3. What wisdom is there?
And she hasn't given any indication that she can't do it.
What wisdom is there in stopping her from writing the rest of the 3? And she had just 3 days to write those papers. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So our educational authorities must listen to students. We must take the guidance and counseling that the institutions have. Must take those cases seriously. Remember, you and I did the case many years ago. You were a PRO for an institution which violated a student's rights. The guy went to court and won. And even when the guy won, and I did the story about his case and the fact that he had won, the school was upset that the matter was in the media. And instead of doing that which was right, the school was trying to use Gifty to try and get me
is that so? I don't remember that story.
She was an assistant PRO of this institution at the time. So she was trying to use backroom channels.
I don't remember that story. Malik, I remember that story, but I don't remember that. I don't remember any backroom engagement.
You know, so we can't always do that which is wrong and then compel people to go to court. You are an educational institution. Your job is to mold people's lives and to help them to achieve their God-given potential. When you do things that frustrate the attainment of that, then you are doing yourself and the person a disservice. And we must recognize this. Help the people, coach them, mentor them, guide them, so that when they have problems, they can be confident enough to come and talk to you. The reason why you have instances, I believe, of suicide in our institution is because no student feels comfortable enough to go and tell any lecturer or guidance and counseling coordinator of the institution what their problems are. Because we don't treat them as colleagues. We treat them as children. Even at the tertiary level, you find lecturers and supervisors and others treating students as children, as kids. We treat them the way they treat their children back home. that is the problem. It's the reason why people go to the school. They can't wait to leave. Many of us go to school. We can't wait to leave. We are simply praying that the day you write your last paper, the reason you find all this excitement and boogieing and dancing and drinking in school is because the people are just happy that they have left this prison. We can't make educational institutions prisons for the persons for whose benefit the institutions have been created.
Right. That's very true. That's very true. And I hope that other institutions will take a cue from this and that we won't have to be reporting some of these stories. And of course, there are those stories, similar stories that are not being told because people in the media do not know. But seriously, if you find yourself in any of these instances, like Jifa has said, there's so many options available to you. Make sure somebody hears of it. And I'm sure that justice that was brought to Cecilia will be yours as well. Since we're talking about women, let's bring in a rather nice, inspiring story, so to speak. So a female Chief Justice replaces another, and that is remarkable, of course. President Akufo-Addo's expectations of her are clear and to a large extent on a par with that of all Ghanaians. Discipline, fairness, and integrity, as well as continuity in efforts aimed at restoring confidence in the judiciary, whose reputation has been severely battered by members found to be corrupt. So far, it appears there's substantial amount of goodwill brewing for her from the Electoral Commissioner, the former Gender Minister, Nana Oyelitha, and indeed the Minority Leader in Parliament. So what lies ahead of her and what areas must be of priority for her? Let me start with you, Malik, before Jifa gets in with the gender biases, etc.
Okay, so Justice Sophia Akufu, I had a sneak peek in her life many years ago, dating back to 2007. 2007, I was an intern at the Daily Graphic, and I was detailed to cover an assignment. Then Chief Justice Wood she engaged in a video conferencing with the Assistant Chief Justice of the US at the time. At the time, there was the head of PR at the US Embassy, Bernice, was the one who coordinated this program, and I was there. Nana Oyelitha was there. Justice William Anam Atuguba was there as well. And at that place, I heard Chief Justice Wood talking about the strength of Justice Sophia Akufu. In fact, I think she wasn't there, but she was just talking about people on the bench at the Supreme Court that she has great confidence in. And she cited Justice Sophia Akufu as one of them. She was talking about her strength in terms of corporate issues. When business matters relating to business come to the court, her strength, she has unique abilities in adjudicating matters of conflict between corporate organizations. And so I heard her talking to other people at the US Embassy about this. And I think it was then that I took notice of her. And since her nomination, we have heard all the laudations that people have poured on her. And before I came on air, I was just reading one of the cases in which she presided. Justice Dateba was on that as well. A case involving some Korean who was an evangelist in Ghana, and then there was a suit brought against him by Gateway Worship Center in Tema. And the way she went about how she laid out the law, the position of the law, simply beautiful and amazing. I think it's not accidental that you have such wide-ranging endorsement of her nomination, including, as you pointed out, the Minority Leader. Of course, you know he's a lawyer, and all the people who have studied law and have read her judgments have great respect for her, because the depth of her law is simply amazing.
Well, you spoke to Emil Short, Justice Emil Short.
Yes.
Whose choice would have been
Justice Duce? Yes, so, absolutely. I mean, you know, so okay, when I talked to Justice Short, I put out two names: Justice Duce, Justice Eniyebua.
Oh,
and then he said, "Are you ruling out Justice Sophia Akufu? Because I know her, and I know that she would make a fantastic Chief Justice. I've related with her. We've been on ECOWAS programs together, you know." So he spoke highly of her, then said, as far as he is concerned, Justice Duce should get it. And he gave out reasons why he thought Justice Duce should get it.
How do those reasons that he gave, you know, sort of rub off on?
Well, I disagreed with him. I disagreed with him on some of them. Specifically, I think one of them, Justice Duce's ethnicity. His point was, he said that given that the outgoing Chief Justice is a lady, that would work against Justice Sophia Kufu. I think what he didn't avert his mind to is that if you look at the top 4 of the country, all of them are male.
Yeah.
And so maybe bringing in a female to balance it may make maybe a persuasive argument.
And the Chief Justice was the first, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It will be a persuasive argument that, okay, you have the President, the Vice President, the Speaker of Parliament, both of them being male. So have a female who will be the 4th most important in the country. That's persuasive argument, some would say. Then he raised that Justice Duche's argument. My disagreement with him was purely on principle. And this is it. I think Justice Duche is a fabulous Supreme Court judge. Fantastic, great legal mind. I think we cannot reduce his merit to his ethnicity, the accident of his birth. When former President Kufuor appointed Justice Duche to the High Court in 2002, it was not on the basis of his ethnicity. It was on the basis of the strength and depth of his law. He was a private legal practitioner. The Ghana Bar Association recommended himself and Justice Enin Yabua for appointment to the High Court. So they were appointed in 2002. 2003, they were appointed to the Court of Appeal. 2008, they were appointed to the Supreme Court. President Kufuor made all of those appointments. It was not on the basis of Justice Duche's ethnicity. So we cannot cite his ethnicity as a reason why Justice Duche should be made as a Chief Justice. Because he rose to that level, he rose to where he is now purely on merit, not ethnicity, not the accident of his birth. So my point is, we do the man a great disservice when we reduce his qualification or one of the reasons why he qualifies as his ethnicity.
I see. Mama Jif, what do you say? I mean, I'm excited, and I'm sure you are, that there's a woman up there. I mean, yesterday at the show where you were organized, the program where you were
recognized,
honored. That's the word I wanted to use. Where you were honored. I mean, I was really inspired sitting down and listening to women, and I didn't think I would be, because we've spoken about this female representation, etc. Sometimes you actually get tired of it. But yesterday, sitting there and listening to women who have achieved, I personally was inspired. So it inspires me that she is a woman. But away from the gender discussion, what would you say are the areas of priority that she perhaps should be focusing on, and that will, you know, add something more than the gender bias, if we were to take it from there?
I'll start from your last point in terms of, but I won't dwell on it too much in terms of the gender bias. In the makeup of the court, we have how many justices? 14?
14.
Yes,
14.
we have 14. So in order of seniority, for some reason, we all knew that Justice Atuguba was there, but we all knew he was on his way out.
Yeah.
But as seems to be the default position, even if the woman is the next in line, people are not thinking about her.
It didn't occur to us.
But really, seriously?
Yes.
Unfortunately,
That's why it's a problem.
And so it's a problem of all of us are making.
Yeah.
So typically, the default position is, oh, who is the next man that can have this job?
But that's interesting. Even when the current occupant is a woman, why wouldn't it occur to you?
So it's a two-pronged issue. Typically, as I said yesterday, a lot of women don't put themselves out. They are qualified, but they don't put themselves out. But you have, pardon my saying, a less qualified man willing to put himself out and get his colleagues to prop him up. Exactly. And then that person gets whatever position it is, head of department or head of something somewhere, you know. So the reality was that in looking at the makeup of the court, she was skipped as a potential. It was, I don't want inadvertent, it's because the default position is, okay, so who is the next man who can get this? And for a long time, typically, even when President Akufo-Addo came into office, and we all knew that this was certainly going to come up, immediately Justice Duche's name came up and Justice Enin Yabua's name. And then
indeed, Malik gave Justice Emil Short those two options.
Well, it had been the names that had come up long before, I must say.
He should have set the agenda.
So I had known that those two names, you know, had been there. It's just that she's she's one of those quiet justices, I must say. Even though I had encountered her before. I had interviewed her in 2003. I can't remember under what conditions, but she was really an inspirational figure. And it's good that someone has been chosen. I understand the whole issue about her being related to the president and her being him
first
the possible conflict of interest,
she training under him.
Under
I understand that, but the reality is that I don't think that Justice Sophia Akufo herself would take this position wanting to succumb to these kinds of things. And anyone who takes up these positions typically would not want, they want to be recognized for what they are worth, which is the quality they exude. It reminds me of former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who appointed her son. And there was a whole debate about that in the UK. And the question she asked was, is he not qualified? And that shut everybody up. And I think the main question we should ask is she worthy? Is she, qualified for the position?
Remember that she was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Rawlings.
Yes, but then does it also mean that the issue about conflict of interest isn't significant?
I don't.
And that requires attention.
Yes and no, but I think it's her chance
to
show that she's an independent-minded judge, as a lot of the lawyers and others who've trained under her have said she is. People have said she is a tough woman. So it's good that I think the president also is still trying to push women into positions and is looking for qualified women to do so. So it's good from one woman to another woman that is highly respected. Her CV has shown us the scope of her knowledge and interests, which for me, I think we need to know more about. We need to know a little more about our judges. We're too secretive about some of these things in this country. And the reason why I think is important is because then we as a people can be confident.
But things are changing, Jifa.
It's a gradual process.
I believe there has never been any wider discussion about the nomination and appointment of a Chief Justice like this one.
I don't dispute that, but the reason why I say so is I have covered a good number of some of the law or legal events in my work, and until you're actually getting close to them and talking to them, you don't really know anything about them. So I remember the last Supreme Court appointments made by, I think, former President Kufuor. We didn't know. So it's a process, and getting the information as journalists in order to make a good discussion about it becomes difficult. And that is why even in this discussion we've had, prior to the appointment being made, I remember it was very difficult getting lawyers to speak about it. We had to bamboozle Frank Davis to do that for us. And even then, because I know that he has a bias, he's a passionate football person. You know, he was head of Great Olympics in the early 2000s. And so I knew that he and Justice Enini Yabua have a shared passion and all that.
And that's why you were driving
you know, but you see, that's only because of the opportunity of knowing all of that. It's not information that is easily accessible.
That's why I consulted here when I was going to talk about it.
And I think it's important so that we know who they are, we know what they stand for, then we can better understand the rulings and the judgments that they've made.
Right, gives us a better background to work with. I'd like for us to take a quick look at some information on her, and then we can hear from the president announcing, her nomination, because she still has to be approved by Parliament. And then when we come, we'll talk about what she can do to restore that confidence that the president talks about, the integrity, discipline, etc., that the president talks about. So here are some details. She will be the second woman to have served in that position. Of course, she was chosen in consultation with the Council of State, according to the president, and
she will be the 13th Chief Justice.
The 13th Chief Justice
in the country.
Yeah, because
since
Georgina Wood was 12.
Since independence.
Yes. And so if she's confirmed by Parliament, she will be the 5th Chief Justice under the 4th Republic after Isaac Kobna Aban, who served between 1995 to 2001. We still have some more information coming up.
Okay, so we have Ike Aban, we have Justice Weirdu, Justice Kingsley Akwa, Georgina Wood, and herself. Yeah.
Okay, and she will also be the 13th Chief Justice, like you said, Malik, in the history of the Republic of Ghana. It's amazing that, you know, like yesterday you said that a lot of people said at the program, Jifa, that young Ghanaian females will look up to this woman and aspire to be like them.
Because remember that she was appointed to the Supreme Court at age 45. And even that appointment itself, there was an uproar. She was too young to be appointed to the Supreme Court.
Well,
at 45.
she proved them wrong, I'm sure, and hopefully she will prove them, those who don't, you know, think that she should have been the one there, prove them wrong as well. But let's hear from the president earlier in the week announcing her nomination.
Justice Sophia Akufo-Well for over 40 years. Indeed, she was my first junior in practice, as barristers call their work. She impressed me considerably with her hard work, her capacity for detailed research, her independence of mind and spirit, her honesty and integrity, her deep-seated respect for the rule of law, and her abiding belief in the sovereignty of Almighty God. I believe these are the qualities which sustained her brilliant career as a lawyer that propelled her to the notice of the first president of the Fourth Republic, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, who appointed her to the Supreme Court on 30th November 1995, some 22 years ago. She has been one of the leading lights of the court since her appointment, and her contribution to the court's work and the growth of our nation's jurisprudence has been extensive. She has enriched her judicial experience by serving with credit on continental judicial bodies, such as the African Court on Human and People's Rights, where she ended up as president of the court. I have no doubt that Justice Sophia Akufo will be a worthy successor to Chief Justice Wood and uphold jealously the independence of the judiciary.
Coming back, right back to you, Majif, what are some of the things that she can do to restore that confidence following Anas Arimi? I mean, already the confidence was waning, but the Anas factor was a mind blower. So what are some of the things that she can do?
All right, I think since Anas's expose, I believe the judiciary themselves have tried to take certain actions to restore confidence. So I still believe that there's still some confidence in the judiciary. I think what people complain about more is about the delays in securing justice, and then of course the processes. Since Justice Sophia Akufo herself has written a paper, legal paper, about information technology in our judicial system, one of the things I'm wishing to see would be reforms in making our courts more automated. It's only really in Accra. You know, I don't know about Kumasi, but it would be good to have the regional courts upgraded in a manner that befits an economy or a country that is moving towards ICT. Fine, yes. So I would like to see her impact that information that she has in terms of ICT development and how it can be applied in the law that should be deployed regionally. I'd love to see that. And then we need to see better court complexes in the regions as well. It's not only, everything should not be centered in Accra. It's good that we have the court complex in Accra, which is, you know, a modern structure. The last time I went there, I saw an electronic board that lists the cases for the day and all that. It is good. But we need to also have that replicated in the region so that when you send a judge to the region, it makes his or her work easier. A lot of the magistrate courts are also in a deplorable state. So we need to see some reforms in improving the physical structure of these other courts, not just the higher courts. However, I would want to see a demystification of the legal process so that when ordinary people like you and I go to the court, we can understand the process better. For instance, journalists in some courts, I'm not saying it's all, are still barred from taking notes.
I think that really, is that not really an issue of discretion? Because then a judge can hold you in contempt if they see you. I mean, depending on how they feel about what you're doing.
Yes, but you see, I don't want, it should not, these things should not now be about how they feel. It's a responsibility for accuracy. Because I'm told that even when you want court judgment, it still takes, you know, weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
so
just
if
this weekend.
So if a reporter goes to the court and has
just
to report,
this weekend we had that.
Yes, one of our colleagues had that issue. If a reporter goes to the, how does he or she come and report accurately? Because there have been instances where a report was made, for some reason the judge got to know and was not happy, saying that maybe things were not properly done, and that reporter was summoned. So if the reporter is not able to write, if you say there should be no recording devices, I can live with that. But
to disallow me from writing,
disallow anyone from trying to be accurate by writing, I think that is something I would like. There should be a decision made on that. Otherwise,
that applies across the board.
Yes, otherwise it will be arbitrary. I know we are told that some of the judges have peculiar idiosyncrasies. So some judges, if you are wearing, as a female, you are wearing trousers, they don't like it. Or if you are a male, a lawyer, and you've not buttoned up, they'll take issues. I mean, I understand some of the judges have these things, and you need to know it before you enter their court to play. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. But I think that is something we need some final closure on. And then the other thing I'd like her to really take seriously is expanding legal education. I think we need finality on this thing. There's too much, I don't know whether to say constriction. Many people are studying law. Why do you deprive people of the opportunity to get into the law school? Because there's only one or two of them.
But you have to prove your worth before you get in there.
There is no doubt about it, but it's not about proving your worth. As I read the situation, it's just a deliberate tactic to keep people out.
I hear people say that a lot. When you're done, I'll let Malik come in on that.
But why
would there be a deliberate attempt to prevent people from accessing knowledge?
Because I think that like you've indicated, we're a middle-income country and we need more lawyers. It's because there are fewer lawyers, and so people are not able to also access justice. If we had more lawyers, so let's give, there can never be more than, I don't think there can ever be too many lawyers.
In fairness, I think that what evidence have you to prove that it's a deliberate attempt to prevent people from accessing law and knowledge?
In fact, it's amazing that sometimes the lawyers themselves, who are supposed to be the ones promoting liberal views and attitudes, are the most conservative.
Well, it's a very conservative institution.
And it begs belief that you talk about promoting justice, giving people access, and yet you deny access to their education.
I see.
I think
it's a tall list to give it.
There needs to, they are just 4. So, so I'll leave.
Loaded 4.